r/AskReddit by Reddit and chill. 911 operators of Reddit. What were the most creative ways that people asked for help when they couldn't explicitly say it? Removed. I've managed to question a caller by using my console to display the keys they pressed because they couldn't talk because they were afraid they'd be heard. I.e., if you're upstairs, press 1. Is anyone else home? 1 for yes. 0 for no. Worked out pretty well. Another time I had someone talk to me as if I were their mother and had to work responses into the conversation. I did my best to help feed them lines to keep it going undiscovered. Elaborate on the second one please. I worked 911 up until a few months ago. I received a call from someone who asked me how I was doing and I originally thought it was a prank, but then I asked if there was an emergency. She quickly said yes. So I had to ask questions in a way that she could answer as if she was talking on the phone to one of her friends. The hardest part was getting a description of the subject in the house and her address. She ended up saying something along the lines of, "Silly. Don't you remember I live at 1234 2nd Street? Not 1st Avenue." Ended up being a domestic and she was pretty beat up, but thankfully she got help that night. Sorry for formatting on mobile. Me. 911. What's your emergency? Them. Hi. Mom. How are you? Me. Are you in direct danger? Them. Yeah. But I'm doing alright. Mom. How are you? Me. Can you verify that your address is the one that popped up on my screen? Them. Yeah. That sounds good. Looking forward to dad visiting soon. Wish you could make it out here. 2. At this point I'm sending everything I can to their location. Police. Fire. EMS. Me. Help is on the way. Mum. I want you to stay on the phone with me until they get there. Them. I'll try. But don't know if I can. Mom. Might not be able to afford it. Me. I understand. Stay with me as long as you can. We talked for about 30 seconds more before the police got to her location. Someone's crazy ex showed up at their place of work with a gun, demanding to see said ex. This woman at the front desk had the wits and calm to fake phone call to her mom while talking to me, the 911 operator. When the police got there, he saw them pull up, walked out and peacefully surrendered. I will remember that call and how calm and brave that woman was for the rest of my life. Edited to add. This was years before everyone and their pet had a cell phone. You, MR or mom, are a very valuable contribution to the human race. Well done. 90% of the time people fail to give location. They are concerned about what is happening. First responders need location most of all. If we don't know where you are, we are just on the receiving end of a gut-wrenching story with no way to help. Even if you don't know where you are, start describing the area. We found a man with a gun hiding in the bushes because the caller who was vacationing in the area said they were near a log cabin. I work in the middle of the desert. There is only one log cabin and everyone knew where it was. Not my story, but it was a 911 hang up. On call back, the person answered, "Domino's Pizza, how can I help you?" The dispatcher then asked who called 911. "Did you have an emergency?" The person says, "Yes, we have specials today." The dispatcher's a little skeptical and thinks that the business might have called an accident, which does happen. The dispatcher goes to ask if they are being robbed. The store clerk says, "That's right, we have a 2 pizza special going right now." The dispatcher enters the call but continues to answer questions while the police are driving. Now in a situation like this, you're going to ask yes or no questions as it directs them to a very clear response on the other end. We have to ask for the race clothing description so we know we're looking for. The Domino's employee says, "Yes, we can put black olives on both pizzas." The dispatcher then goes to ask what color shirt and pants the first one is wearing. The employee says, "For the first pizza you want both halves completely with black olives?" The employee then says, "And on the second pizza you want black olives and blue cheese?" The dispatcher then goes to ask about the weapon, if it's a gun or knife. The employee said, "First one." Dispatcher then asks how many of them have weapons. Employee says only the first pizza. The dispatcher then asked if they arrived in car or on foot. Employee says that special is for carry out only. I'm sure there are quite a few details missing, but I heard that story years and years ago from a fellow co-worker who is now retired. I'm not a 911 operator, but I did make a call like this and the operator responded very well. I'll do my best to remember exactly what happened, but my wording is paraphrased at best. I currently work in the city parks near a high traffic bar street. One Saturday morning at 6 AM. A drunk patron walked over to me and started hitting on me really aggressively. He backed me into my booth and started grabbing me to kiss me. I froze and couldn't escape. We have park cell phones that can contact the other workers at other lakes. So I managed to text my co-worker call 911 to my lake immediately. She called 911 and they called me. But I couldn't talk clearly because I didn't want to alarm the guy. I told him it was my co-worker at the other lake and that she couldn't unlock a chain. Here's the rough conversation. 911. We received a message that you needed help. Did you need help? Me. Yep. That sounds about right. 911. What's going on? Me. I'm not sure. Were you able to unlock it? 911. Can you tell us anything? Me. No. Not at all. There aren't any boats on the lake yet. 911. Is there someone there preventing you from talking? Me. For sure. I wish there wasn't. 911. Are you in danger? Me. I can't really tell. But the sunrise is beautiful. Wish you could come see what I'm seeing. 911. Okay. We're sending help now. Please stay on the line. I started talking to the man like my co-worker needed help while I held the phone in my hand. Within minutes, several police cars arrived and grabbed the man and pinned him to the ground and cuffed him. He looked me dead in the eyes and said, "I can't believe you called the ducking cops." He had a knife on him. I'm so glad that 911 operator didn't hang up on me because I answered her question so weird. But she did an awesome job. As did my co-worker and the police. Also, the police let me sit in the front seat and they let me goof around with the spotlight and they bickered jokingly with each other. Which made me laugh. They were pretty awesome overall. I needed help from the police. Their banter and beaching about each other made life normal again. I don't know if they are trained to do this or this is just their normal. But it absolutely helps. In the same vein, if you're ever carjacked and can't call 911, try to attract an officer's attention. Run red lights. Slow roll stop signs. Drift across lanes. Don't use your turn signal. Turn left from the right lane. Basically drive like a DUI. When you get pulled over, roll your window down all the way. Maintain eye contact with the officer. When asked for your driver license, hand the officer a credit card. Keep eye contact. Hopefully around this time the officer will come to the conclusion that something is wrong. Or that you're a DUI. Either way, your goal is to have the officer ask you to get out of the car. The instant. And I mean the instant you're out of the car. Tell the officer you've been carjacked. Don't worry about the carjacker hearing you. If they have a weapon, mention it. Edit. To the people saying well I'd just instead. That's great. Do whatever you need to do to survive. There are no one-size-fits-all answers that universally work all the time for everyone. But understand that if you're an abduction or carjacking victim, you need to get away ASAP. The carjacker wants you somewhere with no witnesses. Don't let that happen. Edit 2. Lots of stories about people being followed while driving. If this happens to you, stay cool. Call 911. Drive to a public 24-hour place with lots of cameras. Like a Walmart, truck stop, or 24-hour McDonald's. Don't park. Just keep driving around in a loop. Hopefully, your pursuer will eventually realize they're surrounded by witnesses and cameras, including people recording this crazy person driving around in circles for that sweet Reddit comma, and will back off. Do not, under any circumstances, engage the road rager. They may have mistaken you for the person banging their spouse and want to kill you. Stay in your car and do not stop until the police arrive. That's great advice. I would also like to add, if someone is trying to force you to move to another location at gunpoint or knife point, your best chance of survival is to not go with the person. It's highly unlikely they want to kill you at that location, hence why they are trying to transport you. It sort of bridges over to kidnapping. But if someone is carjacking you, it's confinement against your own will. Don't drive and get out the car if you can. 911 operator here. I had a caller who I could tell was in distress from her breathing. As I kept talking, she kept shushing me. I asked if she could tap on her phone once for yes and twice for no. As I asked her yes and no questions, I was able to use the GPS on her phone to get her location and decipher that someone was in her house and she was hiding. Police arrived on scene and it was her ex who had a gun and was looking for her. 9 years, and that was one of the most craziest calls. Those stick with you. Edit. For words. Edit 2. Thanks for the gold, kind stranger. 911 dispatches are typically overlooked in the stepchild or public safety. Feels good to be acknowledged. Edit 3. First gold and platinum. Thanks again. Man. I just posted in a different thread about how frustrated I've been with how flippant and caring my dispatchers have all been. Then I come here and see you're figuring out how to use Morse code and shit to help people. The world needs more of people like you. And your industry needs a million more of you. Thanks for doing a hard job. There is number 100%. The best would be to text someone and have them call us. But that isn't always possible either. Sometimes dialing and just lay the phone down so we can hear. Then try to say what's going on. Why are you hitting me? Why do you want to kill me? Trust me, we listen to an open line like it's an FBI wiretap. If it's a landline, we will get an address. If it's a cell phone, you are at the mercy of how well your cell phone provider pinpoints your GPS location. Cell phones with no active service and only call 911 are less accurate than one with service. If at all possible, try to give hints to your location. You said it would be better when we moved to ABC Street. Call the other Perrion by name. Pull the mad mama first, middle, last thing. Sometimes we are familiar with the person. And now where to look. Anything at all helps. While we are listening, we are doing searches on anything we hear that is identifiable. Have officers driving the general location it pinged to. We try our very best to find you. Piggybacking. If your carrier allows Wi-Fi calling, set your location for emergency services. You can do it in the settings. I heard an indistinct tussling and then open line with heavy breathing. Then the line went dead. I tried to call back and the call was immediately dismissed. Worried I was giving away that whomever had the phone was calling 911. I didn't call back. I waited on another call that never came. We often got butt dials, but something about this felt different. There was no arguing or voices other than the breathing. While I waited for a callback, I looked up the owner of the phone. I called another contact number for the owner. The woman who answered said it was a phone she bought for her daughter and that she was worried about her BC. She didn't trust her boyfriend. I immediately did a location search on her coordinates, which can be wildly off, especially in highly populated areas. Thankfully, it came to an industrial area with only one house in the area. I sent officers. The officers keyed up and told me they went to the door and a man answered. There was no female in sight. I then received another 911 open line call and I could hear distant wind noises, so I thought she was maybe outside. Coordinates were still the same location. I asked the officers to check around the premises. BC, I had a bad feeling. They found her tied and gagged to a tree in the backyard. Edit to add. Thank you for the hardware. Kind strangers. Although, I'm not real sure what they mean or what to do with them. I appreciate it. This is by far the scariest one in these comments. I was in a situation where I was with a suicidal person. He had a gun and it was awful, and I still have PTSD about the whole situation anyway. I was on the phone with 911. But he thought I'd hung up. I kept the phone in my hand, but turned down so that he couldn't see the display screen. I kept loudly pleading with him not to do it, all the while throwing hints into the conversation. He and I lived about 30 miles apart, and twice I was able to work his address into the conversation by saying something to the effect of, I've driven all the way to his address. every week to be with you. Please don't do it etc. etc. The police did not get there in time, but they were able to hear his address and arrived about 3 minutes afterward. I'm very sorry this situation happened to you. However, I don't think there was a better way to handle it than how you already did. You act in a pretty clever way. Ducking like and subscribe.